Okay, hey everybody. We are on Insights of the Soul, Module 2, Pathways to Energy Healing, Part 4. We're going to talk about attachments, curses, cords, and spiritual weapons, a whole bunch of dark stuff. But we're going to learn how the dark just doesn't really have to have nearly as much power as it thinks it can and has had, and how to replace it with light very quickly by validating what's happening and by seeing it with our third eyes, our little flashlights, also knowing how to put light where something was once hurting us or where something was dark. But we do always want to talk about the homework from last week. So we were going to identify a dis-ease in yourself and discover how it is connected to either generational pain or past life experience trauma. Any thoughts or feelings that came through that? Maybe you did a little more research with Dr. Bradley Nelson's book or the emotion chart. I'm curious if you guys played with that a little bit. It is a deep dive study to really feel like you've grasped it, but I'm just wondering if you played with that at all. Use the belief healing process to heal it for yourself and others associated to the pain. Offer this type of healing session to someone else in the group, or reach out to somebody not in this group. Did anybody just play around with that just for themselves? Just kind of looking at the chart, trying to get more familiar with what goes on there? Are we just absorbing information this time, guys? Yeah, we're just absorbers. It's fine. You have access to this course forever. I just want to make sure, like, I'm giving you what you need. And if you need anything, let me know. So, um, what were your takeaways? Like, some of you might have been a little bit newer concept to look at generational healing. Maybe some of you are a little more experienced. Anybody want to share like a takeaway, or like how are we confused about how to incorporate this or ask those questions? Like, let's have a little discussion here. Any thoughts, feelings you want to share about generational healing or pain or even past life experience trauma? Nobody? You guys are busy. Busy time of year. I think I did one on myself. Did I do one on myself? Um, I don't know. You know, I will share this with you. I don't think I shared it last time. I do have a thyroid condition. I've been diagnosed since I was 27 with hypothyroidism, which I guess is Hashimoto's. My grandfather had, my mom's dad had thyroid cancer, and my brother, my older brother, has now had thyroid cancer and has had that removed. And there's several of us on some dosage of thyroid meds. So I've been on it like 20 years now. And I kept thinking, oh man, this is generational. There's stuff in there. My grandfather lost his dad, the one that had the cancer of the thyroid. He lost his dad when he was like 10, and he had to have some sort of a surgery or something on his nose. I can't remember what it was for, but when he was 10, 11-ish. And it was a lot of pain because you can imagine he'd be like 104 years old right now or something. So you could imagine painkillers back then and 90 years ago. And he was crying. He had lost his dad. He was in a lot of pain. He was in the hospital in recovery, and he was crying, and he was 10 years old. And the doctor came in and said, you know what? Don't cry for yourself. Just suck that up and move along, kind of a thing. And um, my grandfather lived by that mentality for the rest of his life. Very, very good guy. One of my closest spirit guides. I'd probably talk about him a lot. But he just thought that that was a great idea. Just suck it all up and hold it all in. Don't speak your truth. Don't have these emotions. And my mother like pointed out to me too, because she's the one who told me the story well after he passed. But she goes, even when he laughed, it was always like a so there wasn't a lot of expression. He used to sing, he used to play instruments and stuff like that. But then later years of life, he lost almost all of his hearing. You had to yell really loud into his ear. And then again, of course, at some point he had the thyroid cancer, had his thyroid removed. And ever since then, he was never able to sing. His vocal cords were very, very messed up. So basically, screaming all things throat chakra that were down, that were shut, that didn't work right. Because somebody shared with him, this doctor was like, hey, you should just suck it up and just move on and stop your crying. When he absolutely was justified in just blubbering all over the place and just getting it out and saying, this is great, express yourself. You lost your dad, you're in pain. Even the nose, you know, it's very close to that same chakra of whatever the surgery was for. And so I'm sitting here going, man, how do I have a thyroid disease and how am I going to clear this? And what emotions need to be cleared and da 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 da. And I've had my little sister work on it before, I'm sure too. And then finally it dawned on me, your body is giving you messages of the soul that there is something imbalanced. And I do believe that our past loved ones are learning from us as they are our angels to us, and vice versa. And finally, it hit me one day while I was at my spa when I still owned a spa in Kaysville, and I was like, "What do I need to do for my thyroid?" And it was just like everything about my personality is the exact opposite of this thyroid disease. I am very expressive. I am very truthful. I have a way of saying truth that does not hurt people's feelings, but actually helps them be free. I'm outspoken. I'm a singer. I was a cheerleader. I'm not shy. I publicly speak. I share my words. And I was just like, I don't have any of the symptoms of somebody who would have this disease in the family. And I realized that although my body might always be like, oh, this is what we're doing, not making enough thyroid hormone, I realized that ultimately it's the soul that needed to be healed, that needs to be healed and moved on. And so I was just like, I have the perfect soul. I was like, I hope y'all watching. You know what I mean? This is how you do. Again, sometimes mine's going to be probably a little too much rather than under, but I just wonder if it could be one of the reasons why my grandpa is so close to me. He comes through the numbers 373. In fact, it was 737, 373, 737. When I sat down to prep class tonight, and I was like, hey, grandpa, like all day long, I'm seeing that and saying hi to him. And I'm like, he is a guardian angel to me, but also he's probably needing to learn, how do you express? How do you release emotion? How do you speak your truth? So I thought I should just share that story since you guys don't have anything else to share. And think about it that way too, that it's like we really are freeing the soul even more than we're freeing the body. Because if your arm chopped off, it was chopped off and totally gone, that I've never seen even Jesus heal that. Okay. So some things are just going to be permanent in the body until we're dead. And in my belief system, we get resurrected. But the soul, always focus on the soul. Is the soul getting what it needs? Is it healing generations by, the person who's still alive being able to use, to do that. Anyways, let's move on unless you guys have anything else you want. Oh, yes, sneeze.
So I have Hashimoto's too, and so does like several people in my family. In fact, my sister just found out today that she has Hashimoto's, so that's
Oh
just
my gosh.
kind of like a thing today apparently.
Denise, I
But
went and saw my doctor last week about it, and I was like, what kind is mine? After 20 years, I said, what kind do I have? And he goes, yours would probably be Hashimoto's. So for me to even say that word tonight was like information I just got last week. I was like, oh,
yeah,
Hashimoto's. That's
yeah, and that's
interesting.
kind of. I just got a job working for a chiropractor, and he does
Mm,
like NAET. I don't know if you know what that is, but they work a lot
mm,
with like energetic ways to heal allergies and things. But
mm.
anyway, so I'm working like on the Hashimoto's and stuff. So it's just kind of like a recurring thing.
Yeah.
But I got the emotion,
Oh, yeah. You go, girl. That's right. You said that you were going to get that.
and it says in here, it's kind of interesting. It says talking about how your emotions will start in a certain organ or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
it says um, that we all know people who can become alcoholics often die of liver disease, but we know that many people who drink can become quite angry and violent when under the influence. Alcohol is broken down and processed by the liver, and too much alcohol overstimulates the liver, which doesn't have anything to do with Hashimoto's, but it's interesting when he says when you overstimulate or overload an organ, it will produce more of the emotion that it is designed to produce. So the liver produces feelings of anger, among others. So this is the mechanism that is often at work when drinking results in violence. So I'm wondering if that might be something that has to do with the thyroid, where maybe overstimulating it because it originates there. Maybe, I don't know.
You mean my
But it's just,
overexpressiveness is because I lack
I don't
thyroid?
know. It's just interesting where it's
Yeah.
talking about how an organ, where different organs, they start, the disease will start there, like anger or whatever
Mm-hmm.
will start in the liver or gallbladder. And
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that if you overstimulate it, that you're going to get more anger. So,
Yeah.
like with
You
me,
get more of what it is. Mm-hmm.
I get super frustrated with my mom, and I get angry, and I have a ton of liver problems too. So apparently,
Mhm.
the more anger that I have, the more liver issues, and it's like pushing out more anger.
Oh, yeah. No, I get you. Because there are times I'm like, shut up, Amy. Just let your thyroid just do its normal job, not an excessive job.
So, but it's that book's been really good if anybody wants to dive
Yeah.
into it. It's been
I
super
suggest reading
great.
that book at least one time through. All of this is just churning the gears in our heads and giving us ideas and things to pull from as you're doing readings. The more you have out there to pull from, I mean, the better it is, the faster and better you'll be able to do those readings and healings. Thank you, Denise. That was awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right, guys, here we go. Take a deep breath. We're going in. Okay. Um, attachments, curses, cords, spiritual weapons. Those are the four words. Spiritual weapons. Every time I say that. I tried to talk about spiritual weapons the first time. I thought we'll just like throw a little side something into each lesson, and it was angels were like, nope, 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 don't throw that crap in there yet. So this is heavy loaded, but I am surprised I was able to just make the presentation pretty easily. Um, and then I'm trying to be really guided with how to use my words to make sure that we're not inviting anything weird or bringing in feelings of fear. So let's talk about fear really quick before we go into this. All the negative things live off of negative energies. So we're talking about things that typically show up in your aura, in your energy field around your body tonight. Oh, God, like all these stabbing pains. They don't want me to teach you. It's going to be a good one, guys. So they live off of negativity. And it's, my teaching style is usually like, this is so empowering. This is positive. We got this. And tonight is basically like some really just dark things. I'm going to try to like show you the light to it. But it's also really important that we understand sometimes sometimes their demons have very much overcome them. Entities attached. We're talking about attachments here first. People do have ghost attachments. I have cleared ghosts off of people, off of my client's spouse or something that's not even with them. And it completely changes lives. So to just be like, oh, I don't believe in that, or I don't want to look at that stuff, you would be missing a huge piece to the war in heaven and what is being used against you here in your bodies here on earth. So yeah, we're going to talk about it, but just remember, like, be mindful of your own vibration, anything we share tonight or anything that comes up. Just be like, yeah, but the answer is light. The answer is light. And that's how weak the darkness is you go light and it's gone. It cannot compete with light. But can things live really, really gross and creepy in the dark? Absolutely. And as healers, as energy readers, we are shedding the light on our clients. So going in with that, we're going in with our flashlights, get your spiritual flashlights on. We are actually going to be, for each one of these, doing some self-assessments as well, because it's best to work on yourself first and see what that feels like inside of you before you start working on other people. It's much easier to work on other people when you've seen how things can show up for you. So start with attachments here. And I will tell you, the slides are very safe. They're very chat GPT. They gave us just basic information and basic healing processes. I wanted that to stay safe because you know me, I'm going to start telling stories and going all around the little thing here, but keep something in front of you that just kind of makes it concise and clear. So I'll read the slide with you or for you first. So spiritual attachments refer to energies or entities, that's like a demon or a ghost or something, that attach themselves to an individual's aura or energy field. So that layer outside of you, okay, kind of right here on the surface. Well, inside too. These can be thought forms, spirits, or other energetic presences that may influence or drain the individual's energy. You guys ever heard of like energy vampires? Oh, I could go on forever about this stuff. Healing involves identifying these attachments and safely releasing them to restore the person's energy, integrity, and autonomy. I hear screaming. Did you guys hear that? My children are screaming. I hope it's happiness. It's just not okay. Because that we're going to be interrupted. Okay, so anyways, let's talk about this. Number one rule: we want our angels closer to us than our demons. And when you're working with somebody and they've been really weighed down by a lot of things, or you're working with somebody and somebody attached to them, like maybe their spouse is an alcoholic or something, I mean, I almost want to say there's always a demon. To any dis-ease in this world, there is a negative energy demon attachment. Like think right now, anywhere in your body where you have some pain, or if you're feeling any anxiety or just a tiny little thing, assess yourself really quick. Just know that on a scale of 1 to 10, there's some sort of a demon attached to that. Usually the ones are like, oh, my rib. Oh, something kind of pokes you in the rib. That's like a 1 or a 2. Okay. Um, but yeah, wherever there's negative energy, wherever there's pain, these things will attach. And sometimes this scares people a little bit. And I go, whoa, whoa, don't be scared. Because first of all, this has been here your whole life, this before this life. This is how it works. We're still fighting this war of good and evil. Yes, I am taking from a Christian standpoint, but yeah, the war of good and evil and the entities, and there is a dark side. There is something that does want to bring us down. Okay. When we talk about like demons, they want your soul. They want you to go to hell. They want you to be a bad person, have addictions. They don't want you to be happy at all. When we talk about ghosts, like that means somebody who's lived and had died and did not cross over. Why didn't they cross over? Well, let me tell you something. All ghosts are rebellious, and nobody ever forces you to the light. Your own faith, belief is what will get you to cross over when the time comes. And so they just kind of get stuck here. Like there's angels, but they can't see them. Heaven forbid that ever be any one of us, right? And so a ghost is just trying, when they attach, they're trying to vicariously live through you, through your life. Hopefully not any of you healer people, but but they will attach through something that's negative. People get too down, negative addictions and things like that. There's a commonality that a disembodied will attach to a client or a person, I should say. And then, but the demons, they want us all the time. But depending on how low your vibration is, also depends on like how big the demon. And so I will typically, on a scale of 1 to 10, talk about like this demon's a 7.5, an 8.9, a 9.9, and this one's like a 10. Like sometimes they're really bad. I usually save 10 for the devil, but sometimes I'll bump the devil up to 11 when I know it's not him, and it's never him. He has servants, okay? And sometimes a 10. Most of the time, so just kind of get the scale in your head a little bit if this is helpful to you in the future, because everything is how we quantify it, okay? We come up with our own scales and our own way of measuring things, and this is mine. But like I said, a 1 or 2 is like, oh, a little poke in the rib, right? Or maybe you stub your toe. That could be a 3 or 4 because that's pretty frustrating kind of a thing. Like, where was the negative energy there? But when people get about a 5 or a 6 on my scale I have created of the intensity of the demon, you feel pretty bad. You're probably having a bad day, but most people can fix their own 5s and 6s and get them back down to 1s and 2s. You've all been there. You've all fixed your own 5s and 6s. When people get up to like 7, 7.5, 8s and 9s, they will typically, I mean, it's going to take something bigger. And that's a lot of times when my clients hear, go see Amy. That's when they need someone else outside of it to see it, to bring their energy in and to be able to clear that. Now, if it's one that's like that intense, it's not like you're just walking down the street and like, 7.5 just got me. There's always a reason why it will match. There will be a vibrational match. There will be something big that went down, some tremendous, I mean, maybe, and they are avoidable. Like you don't have to get that angry. You don't have to drink that much. You don't have to, have all sorts of addictions, right? But you don't have to be that frustrated. You don't have to say that many swear words. You don't have to. There's a lot of things that people do just because we react. We react instead of connecting to the higher power. And so that vibration gets low and something will attach, or in a tremendous amount of fear. For example, here's an easy example. I'm going to keep this light. But I had graduated massage school. I was going to start massaging at a salon/spa. And I had to make the decision of either just being a commissioned massage therapist or renting the booth. So I pay them to work and then making sure I make enough money to make it worth that. And I, just leaving my $12 an hour job as a music teacher to go into this space. And I was just like, single mom. And I was really stressing out about that decision. And like, I know people loved me when I was in massage school, but will they book enough with me later so that I can, pay for the booth rent and it's going to be good? So I was really like, wishy-washy back and forth, a lot of fear on my end. And I would say, and I was going on a walk, kind of like debating this whole thing. And then I was just like, listen to the energy. What is attached to you? What is this demon that's screaming at you? Because, if you feel bad, there's always a demon attached. Okay. Not what's wrong with you. What's attached is a good question to always ask. And I felt like there was an 8 to an 8.5 right here on this side of my face, just wanting to suck the life out of me, the knowing chakra, too much emotion, stuff like that. I remember just being like right here, and it was like bloody and energetically. And I was like, oh, that's you. And then I did the math. And that very weekend, if I had chosen to be commissioned rather than booth rent with what I already had on the books for clients, I would have made $85 less. And so I was just like, then I need to do booth rent. I will make $85 more, for sure, if I do that. I made the decision, da 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 da. So I was able to pull out of that one, but I'm very insightful. I know this stuff, and I was able to pull out of it. So I don't usually get into that, but they can happen. So sometimes you want to wonder, you want to ask yourself, what's attached to me and how big of a deal is this guy? And we don't freak out about the ones and the twos and the things in the ribs and stuff. I mean, it's good to recognize it. You can clear that stuff really quick when you recognize it. But it's, we don't want to give them any more power than they already have, but we do want to recognize it enough so we can put some light in that situation. And the more you work with clients and you have this idea in your mind, your guides can help you realize, is there a ghost there? Is there, a really bad demon that needs to be cleared? I mean, I'll give the demons names sometimes because we really want to capture it. Remember when we talked about capturing with healing, we want to really get a good story on it. And then here's the thing. They act like they're so big. So you really talk about like how bad this thing has been. What has it done to you? Any type of this attachment, energetic presence. What has it been doing to the person? The person will be shocked. They'll be like, yeah, that's how my husband's been acting. Or yes, that's how I've been feeling. Because all you're doing is reading that attachment, whether it's the ghost or the demon. And you're just reading the attachment and you're going, well, you'll know even more. Like, that's not you, honey. That's this attachment over here. And then every time you read it, it loses power. It loses power the more that you know about it. And you would think like, here's the thing. This is how not powerful these attachments are. They're either attached and destroying your life or their life, and you can read it because it's right there. Or they're far away and you can't read them, I guess, because they're not there, but they also have no power over your person or you. So they would rather risk it, stay attached, and do as much damage as possible, even though now you can read it, and they're going to lose their power. Here's what they cannot do. They cannot be there, be attached, and also be unreadable. That would be their ideal situation. And that is how weak the dark side is. So if you can read it, you can clear it. Or if you're not reading it, they're not anywhere around. They're not bugging your client. You're not bugging you. Move on to the next thing. So there's definitely some rules to that. It's just good to really like capture it, quantify it. What do we have here? Is it male? Is it female? Is it disembodied? Is it a ghost? Is it a spirit? It could also look like these negative dark energies can also shapeshift. They've never had bodies, so they can look like werewolves and snakes, and I mean they can shift into anything. So just have your mind be open and kind of gather your thoughts on that, and never be afraid of it. Like literally, are you afraid of the dark when the light switch is right here? No. A little bit afraid if I was in a dark basement. I don't know where the light is. I can hear rats crawling around, and it's moist, and I don't know where the light switch. Yeah, that gets really, 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 really creepy. We don't ever want to get to that space. And some of your clients will come to you where they feel like that's what the darkness has done to them. They don't know where the light switch is, and everything is really awful. And you are that light switch, and you go, hey, chink, chink, I'm trained in this. I've got the light switch ready for you. So, okay, little on that. Let's talk about just the process here a little bit, what healing is. So identification, you want to assess it, identify what's going on, whatever thoughts, images come to you. Okay. Releasing it, guided visualization. This is a lot of what we already know. Energy cleansing rituals, and some of you do Reiki, so there's probably some things you understand to do with that. And you can always bring in your spirit guides, your angels. Okay, we're bringing this into the aura field. We saw what it was gross. We're bringing in the things that we know best to heal that. And then every single one of these has a suggestion that it's not just look at the dark, bring in the light, but also following up. And this is something more than what I guess I don't know if I always do this with clients, but it was really good that they brought this up, that you want to bring it, do some sound healing, do some meditations that are more intense later, do even saging sometimes is mentioned on some of these slides about like, okay, but next time let's make sure we're in a much higher vibration. Let's go do something besides just removing this. Now, what I will do is I'll remove something and I'll be like, okay, now pack it in with some love and light, and I'll send them out the door and everybody feels great. So maybe that's good enough too, but it's like also teach them to have some sort of therapy after that's really going to hold that higher vibration for quite some time so that they can kind of heal inside that cocoon, if you will. Okay, so before we move on, questions about this? Anything about ghosts, energy vampires? Some people's energies just attach. That's a little bit, if they're
Uh,
alive, we'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead, Summer.
on this slide before that,
Mm-hmm.
you talked about there being thought, what was it, forms of
Thought forms.
energy? Yeah, thought forms.
Yeah.
What would an example of a thought form be?
And this is going to be a lot. We're going to talk about this when we get to curses, because curses are a lot about thoughts that are being sent to somebody's aura. So it's a little bit repetitive to say that there. But yeah, think of a curse. And then when we get to curses, that'll make more sense to you. But thank you for asking that. Yeah. Any other questions, you guys?
I do.
Yeah.
Is there, and I guess it's different because we all see or feel things differently, but would you or have you seen a common factor in what comes across as a ghost versus an attachment
Thank you.
versus an entity?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Meant to share that. So a ghost. When there's a ghost attachment, there's typically a huge personality shift that's kind of like real weird and can sometimes happen overnight. Suddenly they want to go places they never wanted to go before. They're saying phrases they never said before. They're eating things that they didn't eat before. If I can share this one quickly, maybe I've shared it before, but I had a client and I'd never met her boyfriend, but I'd worked in his energy and her energy many, many times, just familiar with his energy because of her. And one time I was working on it, just massaging her, and I just was like, I just can't get this impression. I was like, he's being so obnoxious. And I said, why is your boyfriend being so obnoxious? And she like pops her head off the table and goes, I know, right? And he's been so obnoxious. Now, this guy was a fighter pilot in the military. He's a mortgage guy. He she has described his personality as being like a fixture. He's very stoic, very bleh. He's just a fixture. And so for me to feel that his energy was being very, very obnoxious was really throwing me off. And she goes, and she's like, I know, right? And I thought, okay, what's going on with this guy? So I look a little bit deeper, and then I hear these words, I want a waffle. I want a waffle. It was like obnoxious like that too. And I was just like, why do I feel like saying, I want a waffle? And she goes, he's been eating those dang Eggo waffles for the last 3 weeks. He just out of the blue, he's just starting to eat Eggo waffles. She goes, which is like, I have a whole freezer full of them, and he doesn't even toast them. He puts them on a plate and puts them in their microwave, and then he eats them. And she goes, and he's been eating a lot of top ramen, just random kid food. Okay. And I was like, okay. And then a few other things about his personality. I was like, is he doing this? I can't remember the details. I just remember that waffle thing really clear. And she's like, yeah, yeah. And it's just been this last little bit. And I just was like, oh, okay, he's got to have a ghost attachment if the personality has shifted so quickly. Um, and a lot of times your client might even tell you, I feel like I'm two people. Sometimes there'll be like a little boy or something attached to a woman. I'll be like, and you'll kind of get this like, there's like a little boy in here. And you guys, it's a bigger problem. It's a bigger problem than you could ever imagine. So now that you have this information, this will come up more for you for sure. But anyways, so I talked to, I basically figure out with this client that it had been COVID. People had all gone home. So it was like 2020. Everybody's gone home. Nobody's in the high schools anymore. And to me, it was a 17-year-old teenage boy. that had attached to him, like a very immature one that was very, very obnoxious. And I cannot remember the commonalities in his personality in this one because it didn't seem common, but there were a few things that were common that we did decide that this guy was like, well, he's the best thing I can attach to. So we came in and attached to her boyfriend, and they lived together. And I just figured that the kid had been in the high schools and then everybody left. And he's like, well, I don't have anyone to hang out with anymore. And he started walking down the street, found a house. I don't know. It's kind of my story to it, but it was at the same time. And that's why I kind of put that out there. But the point is that I talked to the spirit. I said, okay, buddy, you can't be attached to her boyfriend anymore. You got to go. What do you want on the, and then I give him a motivator. I'll say, what do you want on the other side? What do you think you're getting here that you don't think is over there? And I'm literally using my testimony, my faith, my belief, and creating a portal for him to cross through. I'm like, look to me. I know light. I'm going to show you some light. Okay. Follow me. I know the way. And I was just like, did you know they have waffles up in heaven and top ramen? And I can't remember what else. And I create a little circle in my mind and I go, you can go right through there. And I will make sure there's guides or something that are ready to cross over with them. He left. She came back again, probably a month later, and she goes, not a dang Eggo waffle has reared its ugly head since that day, Amy. It just like the whole shenanigan ended. So that's when I usually go, there's a ghost. Now, if there's a ghost, there's also demons. But remember, there's always demons. Just yesterday, I cleared a ghost and a horrible demon inside of my client's husband. And I am waiting to hear back on her. I said, you're just the observer. You just watch. You'll see things shift. You just watch the next few days and text me if anything comes up. She hasn't texted yet. Hopefully it's all good and nothing got worse. And typically it doesn't get worse. It gets better. But yeah, there can be, yeah, it's always negative, but it's a personality shift. A demon thing is just like they're awful. They're awful souls. They're not being nice. They're let me see how I would say this differently. I don't know. You kind of have to feel like, does this one want to destroy my client's soul? Or do they just want to live off of my client's energy, live vicariously through them and just live life? Because they don't want to, they think they're alive. They don't want to be dead, kind of a feeling. You kind of put it through those two things, but just know that there's always demons, especially when there's a huge dis-ease. So you always want to clear that. And sometimes there's a ghost. And so, and sometimes I do debate for a minute, ghost, demon, ghost, demon, ghost, demon. And I'll go back and forth until I feel like the one is coming through like he thinks he's mortal. That's the ghost. And the other one is feeling like, oh, you want to take their soul to hell. Very different motives. So I guess that's probably the best way to say it. By their motives, you know which one it is, but also huge personality shift. Sometimes suddenly. Another one really quick, I worked with a gal, never met her husband, was in her third eye. And I just got this impression that her husband worked in a warehouse and that he'd been acting like a boss lady from the 1980s. And I was like, has your husband been a little sassy lately? She's like, yeah, it's so weird. I was like, does he work in a warehouse? Yeah. And I was just like, he's got a boss lady from the 1980s with like the purse with the chain that comes all down and all the hair and the mini skirts and all the things. And I was just, and I went on with a few different personality things or things that he's been saying. She completely confirmed. She said, it's so weird. It's so weird. He's been acting like this. I said, okay, he's got a ghost attachment. I crossed his ghost over and boom, he's back to being himself again. This is going to be mind blowing. This information tonight will blow your mind. So those are some stories, some things to look at. I do say to people quite often when I teach about this, I go, there are more dead people on the earth today than ever. So the amount of ghosts and possibilities is way bigger than it was with Adam and Eve. I'll tell you that. There weren't as many ghosts, right? There are more today than ever and more tomorrow. And also there's a lot more people who don't have really the faith or that God connection and are taking their lives and taking their own lives, which is kind of like the biggest slap in the face and just saying like, oh, God doesn't work for me. There is no God. So there's a huge lack of faith and there's a lot of dead people. There was a time in my career I was crossing over every single week 1 to 7 ghosts with different clients. It's probably, I think it's slowed down a little bit because sometimes you get sick of stuff, but it's probably still 1 or 2 a week. And it's really, really, really impactful and powerful. And it will change lives so completely. So be aware of it. Hope that answers that. Let's move on. Curses. Here we go. So a curse is a type of negative energy that has been intentionally or unintentionally, most of us here in America do unintentional curses, okay? Directed towards an individual, often fueled by emotions like anger or jealousy. Curses can manifest as continuous bad luck, health issues, or pervasive negative circumstances. Healing from curses typically involves rituals or prayers that aim to break the curse's energy, cleanse the individual's energy field, and protect them from future attacks. So what was like thought forms? Okay, let's go to where curses are like a real big deal. I have a client that grew up or lived for quite some time anyways in the Caribbean. In that area, St. Martin's maybe is where she's from. The whole, I feel like everything is closing up. Every time we get to a new subject, they're like, shut up, Amy. Anyways, you can pay people to give curses in the Caribbean. It is a business. Many people are in business of curses. You go, I hate her. I hate her so much. And they'll pay money over here to somebody who's really good at putting on curses, and they will put a curse on that person. And my client truly felt like she had been cursed. Her husband, not that she's married anymore to him because he's a jerk face, but her husband was a doctor, pretty well known in the area. And I think there were a lot of people who were jealous of her. Yeah, so sketchy. And she truly believed that people paid to have curses put on her. Her life, I mean, continuous bad luck. She is also kind of the type of person who's really like, that's never gonna work out. Why is everything hard? I worked really hard on her curses. I hope some were released. Also, you don't have to have a curse just because somebody sends it to you. You have to be the match in order for it to connect and actually curse you. But it helps to have a positive attitude about life, which is kind of what I was trying to work with her. But anyways, that's the bad stuff. There are other cultures in the American culture. It is like a real deal thing. Native American stuff, they are real serious about their curses. Most of us people who are immigrants from Europe to America, we're just like, oh, I hate her. Okay. Oh, I hope she dies. Like we just say like things like that. And it is negative. That's the stuff that we need to watch out for most, is having negative thoughts towards somebody and ill wishes against them, because that is also curse energy. And so when I'm looking at a client, most of my clients being here in America, these European descent Americans, most of the time it's not this ritualistic, deep, dark curse energy. It's most of the time just like, who hates you? Who hates you this much? Because I am seeing a whole bunch of like negativity, and you usually see it like maybe a part of their chakra system, their aura, somewhere on their body. In particular, you'll see it, you see your sense or feel it kind of pulling up in a certain area. There's a script to it. You can feel if it's a female. You can get a whole story out of it. But yeah, it's usually anger or jealousy or something like that. Now, that again, just because somebody's angry or jealous of you does not mean that your energy is going to hold that. Because if you're really a high vibing person, probably maybe they're not angry with you, but they still could be. It creates a natural shield. So not every curse that comes your way has to be something that attaches to you. However, we all have our down moments. We all have our negative energies at times, and things do attach. The entities attach, the ghosts attach, the curses can happen to attach. But when we shed light on it, we're looking at it, we're going, is this a curse? Then anyways, you can just clear it. Most of ours are easier to clear than, like I said, this dark stuff from wherever heck. And there is a part of me that felt a little unprepared to deal with curse energy that was as dark as my client from the Caribbean. Again, I hope I was able to like release something, but it also takes the person being more positive and not being afraid. She was so afraid that this curse was on there. And so that's like a whole mindset shift in and of itself. Anyways, questions before I move on to the healing of curses, or what could be a curse? I thought we were going to self-assess each time, but I'm actually spending so much time talking on each one that we're not yet. We'll maybe do a little self-assessment at the end. Okay, I'm going to move on to the healing. So yeah, obviously you want to identify it. It's a spiritual divination. That just means, energy reading. And just kind of figure out its source and the nature of the source. Again, like, who is this coming from? Where is this? Maybe if you work with somebody who's from the islands, islanders, Hawaii, any of the islands really, there's a lot in their history with curses. And that stuff can be generational and passed down. So sometimes there's that you're going to look for and be like, this is, I know it's not you. Nobody did this to you recently, but your family has been cursed through the generations. And so the origination of this curse, sometimes you have to go back a few generations and kind of figure that out. And it's enough to just have an idea. It's enough that you saw it. Okay. Don't think like, oh, I don't know enough about curses. Just what are you feeling? That's enough. Light in any darkness, the light wins. Okay. So breaking the curse, rituals or prayers are specifically designed to counteract the curse's energy. This is like the pretty intense stuff. And this is a little bit, to me, it sounds a little like Reiki, but this may involve the use of symbols, words of power, or the invocation of protective spirits. Again, calling in angels, whatever words you feel like saying, like, okay, let's just get this out of the way. Let's just clear this. The more you understand light, the more power you have over dark. So and the more you work in this, the more you understand light. And so sometimes I'm like, whatever. And I've just been like, get out. Amy's here. The light is here. Christ is here. Just your light source. You just know, and you just command it, basically. You just say, well, we excuse you. No, thank you. I'm going to intentionally put angels and light in the space of this instead and hold this. And the darkness goes, has no choice. No choice. So then cleansing and protecting, again, post-ritual, you want to do things that is going to cleanse their energy field, smudging, salt baths, sound frequencies, all these good things you guys know to do, and just raise that back up, give them that cocoon again to be able to heal that. Any questions with healing curses? Okay, we'll move on. Cords. This is an interesting one. Okay, cords are energetic connections that form between individuals, usually as a result of intense emotional or psychic interactions. These cords can continue to affect individuals by allowing emotions and energies to flow from one person to another, sometimes draining or negatively influencing them, or keeping them attached for way too long. Cord cutting is a common healing practice intended to sever these unhealthy energetic ties, promoting emotional healing and energetic independence. I have not taken a class on this. I don't go to cord cutting ceremonies. Maybe you have. Maybe you can shed some light on this if you have. The idea of just knowing what cords were, basically, this is where my understanding has ever been about it. I don't go to, like I said, no ceremonies. People do big things for this stuff. I just need to know what it was, because, and most of the time your cords are going to show up in the sacral, in your gut. When we have an attachment to somebody else that's unhealthy, it's a cord, and it will typically go from their sacral chakra to your sacral chakra, like an umbilical cord. So think of it like that. Not the only way, not the only how, but it's typically what's going on. Now, a healthy connection is a heart to heart. Sometimes maybe they talk about cords in the heart too, but it's basically you want to connect heart to heart. You never want to connect sacral to sacral, umbilical cord to umbilical cord. That's not healthy. That was for you and your mama. That's for nobody else. So when you were inside of your mom, different, totally different. So these cords, this is going to be like your exes, your clients' exes. There can be cords attached from mother to child, not in a, I don't know. I mean, there can be some really toxic families. Have you ever noticed, if you've worked with enough people, that the people who have the toxic moms, it's like they're and they're adults, right? Everybody's an adult. They're on the phone with them like 3, 4, 5 times a day. And then those of us who have like good moms, we just talk to them whenever, ever. Like I talked to my mom today, but I don't know how many days I went without talking to her. Like she's right here in Layton. It's like healthy relationships just kind of flow normal without these excessive attachments. And it's the really, really, really toxic ones that are talking all the time to their toxic people. That could be like a cord. However, I'll tell you this, when I dropped my son off at the MTC in Provo, that was in 2019, or no, that was 2017. I love my kid. It's my baby. That's my firstborn. I drop him off. I cry, the whole thing. I get back in the car, and just from my sacral chakra, I felt like the umbilical cord had been ripped out of my gut. I was like, holy crap, this hurts so bad. And I was just like, did I have a negative attachment to is this an over attachment to my child? It hurt really, really, really bad. But maybe it was also just time to cut the cord. You know, that's the first time to, I say that kind of like, that wasn't a super negative thing, or was it? but it wasn't super negative. But it possibly was negative. It possibly was time. Maybe there was a little too much there, because I know, like, before he left, the 3 weeks before he left, he couldn't say anything that was polite, and I was very grateful to get his butt out the door. I said, well, why don't you go share your opinions with the world, son? I mean, that's what they do. They act like total buttheads before they go on their missions. But anyways, so maybe there was something that was a little too overly attached that could hurt me too much, or he felt too attached to me that he was hurting. So there's mild forms of this, there's natural connections like this. And what we really want is heart to heart. So I'm basically feeling like my whole sacral chakra is just bleeding to death, allowing the process to happen though, and then learning to have more of a heart to heart connection and mind to mind, kind of talking to him, because that was before you could talk every week to your kid. Okay. And so some other ways to connect that were actually healthier and more spiritual and uplifting. So negative, super bad. Again, think about your exes, even if they're dead, think about your exes. And if there's still some cords there, that's kind of where that applies. Let's talk about the healing, and then I'll see if you have questions. So identifying, again, we always start with identifying, right? The existence or the source of the cords. Yeah, same. And then cutting the cords. So cord cutting rituals are performed, which may involve visualization techniques where the individual imagines cutting cords with a sword or scissors, or a healer might perform a symbolic cutting during a session. There are times where I go, okay, we're just going to cut this. So it's a guided meditation. You can be like, we're going to cut this cord. And you can even ask your person, your client you're reading, or even yourself, what do you want to use to cut this cord? Do we need to burn it off? Do we want scissors? Do we want a machete? Do we want just like a butter knife? Like what feels right? It can be anything you can imagine to be able to cut that cord. Because remember, all of this is just thoughts that have turned into something, right? So we use thoughts to turn things into other things. And then again, post-cutting healing practices, you want to seal the energy field. So yeah, if you got like this cord and you just cut it, think of the umbilical cord, you have to like sear it off. Okay. So you want to think like smooth back over that area. Just setting it up like that. And then what is it? Talk about emotional boundaries and personal power so that you can prevent attachments in the future. I'm very good with my clients to educate as we go about this so that they can prevent stuff. You got to change their mind. Sometimes people who are very, very silent with their energy healing, I go, okay, I hope that worked. But I want to incorporate the mind always. So teach how they can prevent these things in the future. Teach them about cords, show them, talk to them about what you have found. Yeah, because knowledge is power. Okay. Any questions on cords? Kind of makes sense, kind of. Okay, let's move on. We're going to do the last one because I do want to do a little bit of self-assessment still. So weapons. All right, in spiritual healing, weapons refer to residual energies or objects believed to be embedded in the aura or energy body, often as a result of psychic attacks or intense negative interactions. I'll explain, okay? These can cause ongoing pain or discomfort on an energetic level and are typically removed through energy healing techniques. This process is aimed at extracting these energies to alleviate their impact and heal the affected areas of the energy body. I was teaching a course. Was it my last angel course? And because I think you guys all took it, that last angel course I just did. And I think it was Michelle. And she was the one that was going through the divorce. Nod your head if you remember this. She was going through the divorce. Yeah. And I did a reading on her. And I said something about her throat. Something I talked about maybe like a spiritual weapon. It was either like, I feel like it was something stabbing or something in the neck or the throat or something. And when I said that, she just like almost cut. You could just saw her whole body go, yes, this is what's happening. I really like talking about spiritual weapons because it's so validating to the way a person feels. So think about the expression, somebody stabbed you in the back. 100% there is a spiritual knife in their aura. So everything that we know of weapons in this world was created spiritually first. They use weapons, spiritual warfare, okay, that are exactly like the weapons that you and I know, and sometimes even weird things. I'll explain a weird one here in just a minute. So it's very, very validating to not just be like, you have a ghost, you have a demon, oh, there's something negative there, maybe it's a curse. But when you can say like, it looks like cords are being wrapped around your neck, it's so validating to them because it literally, there are energetically cords wrapped around their neck. Or like, I felt like that stab a little bit earlier. I was like, oh man, shut up, Amy. It was like a little stab. And I felt a few things in the back of my throat and neck and everything back here, just not really bad, but you know. So just think like any weapon you can think of in your mind could possibly be in the aura of someone else. Things are being thrown at us, and you have thrown them too. I mean, there's things that you have said that were probably negative about somebody else. You're like, oh, okay, I don't like her. She's the worst. That's like knives. Knives can come right out of people's mouths and actually sit inside their aura. We have no idea how powerful we are and how powerful those words are and those intentions are. And they've done it to us too. And again, this is one of those things where it's like, just because somebody says something doesn't mean it has to go into your aura. But if you're kind of weak and insecure about something, which we all are about something somewhere, and somebody's going to take advantage of that negative energy that they have sensed because they choose a negative standpoint instead of one that's healing or powerful, you will probably get something that will get there. So we've all had them. You probably all have one right now. But sometimes it's in a session, you will find that it's important to bring up one or two of these just to completely validate what that person is feeling, that they're not crazy, that there really is like a vice on their head just closing on them like this. We talk like this, we talk in like metaphors all the time in our culture, and we have no idea how often we're actually just reading energy. Like, I feel like my head's in a vice. Well, I mean, it probably is. And you can sense that, and you're like, okay, we're just going to untwist this vice. We're going to actually go put this over here. We're going to cleanse the aura, and we're going to add it to the love and light. And we're going to take this vice and we're going to give it to Christ, and we're going to let him go deal with that. Okay. That's a very quick example of how to do it. Now, here's one that's fun for you. I had a client too. She was Reiki, and I massaged her, and she did Reiki for me and all sorts of things. And she had these 2 kids that were foster. Well, she had like 4 kids that were foster than adopted kids. Never had any of her own. And she's not the greatest mom either. She had a lot of issues, but the kids also had a lot of issues. And I was massaging her one day, and I saw pencils and spoons in her scapular region on both sides of her back right here. I was like, you got a pencil right here. You got spoons over here. This is just me energetically feeling what spiritual weapon could be there. And she explains to me, I try to get my kids to eat with a fork, but they're like 12 and 14 years old. Okay. I try to get them to eat with a fork, and they just insist on eating with spoons. It drives me nuts. And I was like, oh boy, end of the world, right? I can already kind of get an idea for this woman's energy, and that she's a little uptight, like, oh my gosh, let stuff go. And they were energetically throwing spoons at her. So what does she get? She gets more spoons. The other thing too, because I said pencils, and she's into all this energy stuff, so she's interpreting it for me pretty quickly. And she's like, we fight all the time about them getting their homework done. So pencils, da 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 da. I was like, they're throwing pencils at you. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Now you think, oh, a pencil and a spoon, at least it's not a machete. This is my point. It can be anything. But it's relevant to what is happening. So let your mind go wild as you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on with yourself or your people. All right, here we go again. Detection, identifying. Weapons are usually detected through energy scanning by us that we can see or sense any distortions in the aura. To get rid of them involves energy healing techniques where the practitioner might use their hands. I do like using hands for those, okay? If you can be with your person. I really like just kind of pulling, unwrapping. I do like using my hands for that. But you might not always do that. You may not be with them. In that case, you can just visualize using your hands. And tools like crystals, pendulums, visualization techniques, and draw out the intrusive energy. Basically, you're just saying, oh, no, you don't. Okay. Setting a new intention. And then after light work, restorative practices, so there may be some follow-up sessions you may want to do, things like that, until the aura is fully restored. Okay, let's do a little self-analysis. You're going to ask, let's do, because I know you're all energy readers at this point, write the word aura on the top of your paper. Maybe even my aura or your name. We're going to go aura. And then I'm going to draw like a little person with a little head, 2 little arms, body, and 2 legs. And right next to where you put my aura, we're going to put attachments. I can never spell that word right. We're going to write the word attachments, curses, cords, and weapons. And I want you to self-assess. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. We're going to self-assess what we find first. But let's ask the angels to help us know if there is, like, we're not going to do all 4 tonight for everybody, but let's ask the angels which is the most important for you to look at right now. Like, there's probably, it could be some attachments, could be curses, cords, or weapons. Which one do you need to really see? For whatever reason, do you need to see in yourself tonight? So go through those 4 words and let one of them pop off the page for you. And maybe you can even ask about a certain problem, like concerning this problem, which is the thing that I need to see most. So let's get a little bit more clear on that. Concerning this problem. And then circle your word. Okay. Whichever one jumped out at you. Now go to your little person that you drew, which is you. This is your aura. And ask where in your body, where in your aura is that word, attachment, curses, cords, or weapons? Where, concerning the issue that maybe you brought up, is it showing up the most? Where is the curse showing up? Maybe 1 to 3 spots, usually just 1, but maybe it has more, so just be open. There's no rules here. But if there is more than 1 spot, maybe put like, okay, number 1, this is the worst, then number 2, and then maybe number 3, like the areas where the energy is more intense or not. Okay. Let's chat about it for a minute before we clear it. Okay. Summer, which of the 4 things jumped out at you the most?
I keep yawning. Attachments.
Okay. Did you have a specific question when you were like, hey, concerning this issue, what is this looking like?
I didn't. I missed
Okay.
that part.
Okay, no problem. Okay, where on the body did you feel like there was an attachment?
Right here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then right under my rib cage.
Okay. Which is where you feel pain?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like when when I asked that, I started getting a huge stabbing pain right here in my back, and then I asked if there was anywhere else, and it was under my rib cage on my left side, really.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so you don't always have to have a specific thing. I felt like for me, I went back and they were like, no, get a specific thing for you. But sometimes you can just ask, like, do I have any attachments? Like what is wrong? What's off? And you get a lot of migraines, you get a lot of pain there.
Mhm.
So that makes sense that there
Yeah.
would be one there, right? Denise,
Yeah.
what was your word?
Mine was cords
Mm-hmm. Where did they show up for you?
in like the solar plexus stomach area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Amy, what'd you find?
I was surprised, but mine was curses.
Mm-hmm.
And but I had focused first, like, okay, on my trapezius, like what is attached there, or what is it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And curses was there. So that was my number 1. And then asked, is there a number 2? Because I can't think of anything. And feet popped up, but I'm kind of surprised at that. So
Okay,
but I
cool.
do have issues, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, well, maybe
Yeah.
my curses are too then.
Shine a little light on it, right? Maybe it's
Yeah.
something you didn't think of before. Nicole, what'd you find?
Attachments, and I felt like heart, maybe like gut and neck.
Yeah. Okay. Mine was, I was surprised. First I was like, oh wait, I wanted to get more clear. And I was like, what's with a certain individual I gave birth to? Okay. And I was like, what's going on with this? Like, it's always saying something that will just get right underneath your skin and make you feel insecure and like you make stupid decisions and you're with bad people and things like this. And I was like, oh, that's curses. It's curse energy. It's curse energy. Of course it's curse energy. And I felt it number 1 in the throat because it's always, I don't know, it just feels like it's always verbal. I'm always hearing something, always feeling I got to defend a curse energy that's connected. Number 2 was like low back. And number 3 was up into the heart. So, but those were lesser. So that's why I numbered those 1 to 3. Okay. I have a story connected to mine. Let's capture a little bit of a story, and then when we feel like we have a story, we'll clear it. So let me see how I tell you to get your story. Figure out how long it's been there. Write that down. I want to know how long you feel it's been there. Where it came from, like, I don't know, person, place, thing, thought. Where's the source? Where does it come from? And on a scale of 1 to 10, remember 10's like the devil. How bad is it? Okay, so how long? Where did it come from? Scale of 1 to 10. Answer those questions. And don't even question it. If a thought comes in, just write that number down for how long. Okay. Okay, I'll share mine first this time. So how long has it been there? 6 years is what popped into my head. And then I went, whoa, what happened 6 years ago? And I went, oh, yep, I remember that concerning my issue. Okay. What was the source? A dark feeling of banishment. I mean, this is all too personal to really share here, but like I could see where the portal opened to this. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I was like, it fluctuates between a 6 to an 8. So it's pretty hard. Remember, if it was only 6s, we can get rid of it ourselves. And we kind of do naturally. We move past those. When they get a little bit more tricky, they get in those upper numbers. Sometimes we need help, or at least looking at it a lot harder than we have. Okay, who else wants to share? Does everybody want to share, or just anybody?
Sure.
Yeah, Summer, go ahead.
So how long? I got 12 years. Well, I got 12 and then I had to ask 12 months, 12 years, 12. It was 12 years.
12 years,
Um,
wow.
12 years ago, I was using drugs.
Okay, there you go.
Got
We have a little more to
sober
clear from that. Yeah.
almost 11 years ago,
Mhm.
a little over 11 years ago. So I would have been in the middle, heavy into my addiction.
Wow.
And how bad is it? I got 6.
Right now it's a 6. Go back into your mind right now, 12 years ago. How bad was it then?
I got 8, 9.
Yeah, a 9, 8 or 9. Mhm.
Mhm.
I saw a 9 for you for sure. Whew, isn't that interesting? Okay, who else wants to share? Denise? Go ahead.
Sure. So mine, how long has it been there? That's since birth. So
Crap.
on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 9. So I already
Mhm.
know who it is. It would be my mom. Same reason why I have all the liver issues. So
Yeah.
a lot of anger and things there, but
When I did mine, when it was like, where did the source? Yes, it's connected to someone I gave birth to. We'll just call it that right now. Relationship's okay, but these things still pop up, okay? It wasn't the person. It was like, yeah, but it had to come from something dark. And I saw like a dark portal that had opened. So Denise, I want to challenge you to look at that again and not say my mom. I want you to go, what portal opened connected to your mom or something like that, where you can go to a place or a source, because your mom is not the source of darkness, but she does get sucked into it. Anyways, I want you to just, not right now,
Okay.
but yeah. Or what? Did you
okay.
say something? Okay, yeah. Think of it more like that, because if we always say it's a person, it's a person, it's a person, the devil's just back there laughing. He's like, you guys keep thinking it's you guys are actually doing this. It's us. We're doing this. So you want to actually identify their true source. Okay, Amy, you want to share?
Yeah. So how long has it been there? And I guess the answers all surprised me. But
Yeah, good. They should.
I was just like, oh, really? That long? And then anyway,
Yep.
so the questioning in my brain, right? So 10 years. Where did it come from? The word I got in my mind was home. But I was like, well, what home? And the only
Mhm.
big thing I can think of 10 years ago was we had moved here, but we had living with my parents before that. And so the only thing living with my parents was the next thought was, okay,
Mhm.
so their home, I guess, and
Okay.
living back with them. Um, and then
Stressful.
how bad is it? And I got 10 again, but I was like, no, it's not. Why is it a 10?
Mm.
And then all I got was it's just a 10. I'm like, but
You got some stuff
why?
sneaky hiding in there.
That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me.
You know
So
what?
I'm
The
just like,
tens are very, very good at hiding. They'll stick around for a long, long, long time. Very sneaky. So that
yeah,
might require some deeper insight.
I don't
Interesting.
know.
Yeah.
That's just
Okay.
weird to me. And I'm like,
Nicole,
no.
yeah. Sorry. Okay, Nicole, do you want to share?
Yeah, mine, how long is 7 years? Where it came from, I'd say like thoughts, fear to what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Scale of 1
number
to 10.
was like, it kept being 7 and then like a 9.
Because it probably fluctuates. Like mine was a 6 to an 8. It fluctuates depending on the day. I definitely experienced an 8 at some point today with that person with this issue, which is why it came up, right? We feel dis-ease, we know something's off. Then we look at it instead of just go, ah, that's life. Okay, so half of energy healing is validating, capturing, looking at it. And we were already halfway done to healing because all of these things are losing power right now because we're looking at it with that spiritual eye. Um, I suggest you take it from here, do more of the healing process that you know how to do, validate, talk about it. But quickly, because we would never want to leave something open like this. And maybe this will be enough for some of us. We just want to imagine that let's put an angel on it. Let's give it an assignment. We're going to put an angel on this that is an expert in clearing this attachment, curse, cord, or weapon. They understand the personalities of all involved, and they know how to clean up every connection, every part of the aura that was affected by this. And you hired somebody, you got a cleaning lady to come in, okay? And they're on the job and they will not finish until it's sparkling clean. So have that visualization in your mind. And then breathe in gratitude as if it's already happened. It's already been cleared. Your shoulder already feels better. Your neck feels better. These communications, in my case, that I'm having with this particular child, just get sweeter, more understanding, and we kind of forget about the past or anything, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So we got the cleanup crew going on it right now. And we're just going to set an intention that this is going to hold. So feel what it would feel like to hold something. And it holds. And sealing off any part of the aura that could have a hole in it or something like that is just completely sealed. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And as needed, if you need to process more for the healing process, it will come out gently and at appropriate times and in appropriate ways that are also healing. Okay. Setting a new intention because you just shed light on something like this. Okay. And similar process, of course, is what you would do with a client. Let's talk about your assignments for this week. So yes, do a self-assessment daily. I mean, this really can just take a minute. Just do it in the shower. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, what's going on today in my neck? You'll have an area of your body that typically will attract more negativity than others. Thyroid issues, neck issues. That's Amy. Oh, look, where my curse showed up. Okay, so you'll kind of know where your dumping grounds are. Check in on those a lot. If you do something, sure, try to write down what you do because sometimes I feel like I do stuff and I totally forget. Might want to write one down in at least a word or two so you can remember to share it with us next week, and then offer reading to someone in this group or wherever. Just try to use it in your work. And use those healing steps provided to release what you have found. Okay. And then next week, I figured after all the things that we've been talking about, you might be like, well, how do you know which is which? This is the subject I came up with for next week for right now, deciding which dis-ease is the problem, or discovering which dis-ease is the problem, or knowing, I don't know what word to use, but I also thought of, we haven't talked about clearing houses, spaces, energy portals. We didn't bring up anything like that today. So I think that would also be interesting. So there may be that a little bit of that next week. But yes or no, do you feel like I'm just guessing this would be a question for you guys at this point? Are you kind of going, we're learning about a lot of different things. How do I know which one it is? Or do you feel like it's going to be easy to just be like, oh, this feels like generational. This feels like past life. This feels like, do you want me to focus on this or do you want me to focus on like maybe cleansing and clearing houses and portals? No idea?
I like the
Because we have another
deciding
week. Yeah.
disease is the problem. I like that.
I thought of you, Summer, but I made it up. I don't know why.
What?
So yeah, I just figured like let's do some of that. I'll see how much maybe it'll be half that and maybe we'll also talk about some portals, vortexes, houses. I do energy clearing of homes like right here inside my house or during their massage. I don't even go to their house. And their houses will be completely changed. So that could be fun too, but that could also be like part 6. We could go into clearing homes and spaces. So anyways, kind of building this off of you guys and what is needed or desired. So we'll stick with this and I will see you guys next time. Okay. Thanks for joining us and good night.